What's up, Eager to Pleasers? Welcome back to the Eager to Please podcast. I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Gemma Hartley in last week's episode as we dove into why women are feeling fed up. So as we wrap up our conversation on anger and resentment, I wanted to pause for a moment to make sure we talk about the difference between the two words, how they're interconnected, and share with you some perspective on how we can work through it without blowing up or shutting down. According to the American Psychological Association Dictionary of Psychology, anger is defined as an emotion characterized by tension and hostility arising from frustration, real or imagined injury by another, or perceived injustice. It's often viewed as a negative or bad emotion, one that we're taught to keep simmering on the low burner so as not to boil over. But is anger really the culprit here? Or is it our behavior and the way we handle anger the issue? Anger is actually a signal that indicates something feels unfair, or our needs aren't being met, or we're feeling disrespected or unsafe. The key is, anger is only beneficial if expressed in a healthy and timely way. If we avoid it or push it down, that's when anger transforms into something heavier, something stickier, resentment. Which leads me to the definition of resentment. The Dictionary of Psychology defines resentment as a feeling of bitterness, animosity, or hostility elicited by something or someone perceived as insulting or injurious. Resentment is like that feeling you get when you clench your teeth. It's like a slow burning fire that you just can't put out, because it's saying these feelings have been building up and it's been hurting for a long time. Resentment stems from feeling like we can't express anger in a safe way, or we convince ourselves it's not worth bringing up, so we keep avoiding the difficult conversations. What gives resentment so much power is the narrative that we associate with it. Oh, this is just the way it is, or they'll never think about what I want. Resentment often lingers not just because of what happened, but because of how we explain what happened. So why is it that we get the angriest at the people that we love the most? I find this question so interesting because my ex-husband would say to me, "Why are you always so nice to everyone else, but you're so mean to me?" That's because anger is really about expectations and emotional investment. The closer we are to someone, the more we expect them to know us, understand us, and protect our feelings. When we feel like those are missing in a relationship, that's when we start building up the walls to protect us from old wounds. And I've learned that how we deal with anger is something that we learn from childhood. In my case, I witnessed a lot of yelling rather than having calm conversations. So that's what I brought to the table in my own marriage. My way of dealing with hurt was to stuff it. Nothing's wrong, I'm fine, until it got to the point of boiling over, and then I would explode. I know now that was not a healthy way of dealing with disagreements, and it took a lot of work to get out of that loop. Then how do we process anger in a healthy way so it doesn't build up to the point of resentment? I enlisted the help from the Mayo Clinic on this one to help with fully vetted advice. Here are some suggestions that they share. Calm down. I know this is super hard to do, especially when you're in the heat of the moment, but being calm before having a conversation needs to be a priority. Otherwise, you'll end up saying or doing things that you later regret. This doesn't suggest ignoring the conversation altogether, but go for a walk, get some fresh air, or journal your feelings. Anything that puts some time and space between you and what's really bothering you. And then revisit the conversation with more clarity. By giving yourself time to cool off, you're able to identify the issue you want to discuss. When you've taken some deep breaths and paused for a bit, stick with I statements rather than, "Well, you did this," attacks. Criticizing or placing blame only increases tension, and the other person is bound to shut down. Then you're just back to square one. And one that I've had to really work on myself, but I think is super important, is learning to forgive. Holding grudges only builds bitterness and resentment, going back to that clenched jaw feeling. But forgiving someone who angered you might help both you and the other person learn from the situation and strengthen your relationship. I just had a recent conversation with my mom off mic about a family member who's still holding on to hurt feelings from his childhood, and he's in his mid-70s. It really showed me how heavy unresolved pain can become when it's held onto for decades. Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened, but it can free you from that emotional weight and open the door to healthier, more honest connections with the people that you care about. I hope this episode was helpful in sharing some insight and support. And remember, your emotions are signals meant to help, not hurt you. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found value in this conversation, be sure to share this episode with someone you feel might need to hear it too. I'll see you back here for the next one.
So eager to